Welcome everyone to the 20th annual Hearts of Fire benefit. Almost hard for us to believe that it's been 20 years already. When we look back, we see that we've taken more than 1,000 of you on 85 mission trips around the world, 5 different continents, and so many people's lives have been changed. Because what we've seen is we've seen ordinary people with willing hearts and faithful donors all joined together to allow God to do extraordinary things. And when we've seen these people, we've gone and we've felt their pain, we've seen their tears, we've experienced life at a whole different level for ourselves. And what we found is that people don't choose where they're born. They don't choose the family, they don't choose the town, the circumstances. And so when we go and we get into these people's lives, we realize that they need a lot more. Most of what they need is hope. And when we look at this and we see, some people will ask us, oh, well, why don't you just focus on one thing? Why don't you just do wells or just do medicine? So many of you are doctors. And the reason is this: when you learn to care for someone and you have compassion for them, you realize they don't just need a week or a month's worth of medicine. What they need is they need clean water that will change their lives. They need food. They need love, and they need hope. And it takes all of those things really to give them the hope that they need. A lot of people also will ask us, well, what about here? And we know there's a lot of need here in the United States. There's no question about that. We also know that there are a lot of resources here in the United States. And Jesus said, go. He didn't say stay. So we're going, and a lot of you have gone with us. So tonight, what I really want is for you to reminisce with us about the last 20 years with Vilma and Rhonda and me, and then also with us imagine what the next 20, 50, or 100 years could look like and what part of that you can be. Vilma.
That's amazing. You know, Joe, I look back and I am so blessed to realize that the dream of a little girl at age 5 to become a doctor, but at age 7 to become a missionary doctor. Who would know that? And years later, to walk through a dialysis unit and be told that somebody is going on a mission trip to my country, Peru, where I was born. And what's amazing is that they said, oh, I'm going with Dr. Joe. And that changed my life. That very day, I signed up for your next mission trip to the Dominican Republic that was going to happen a few months later. And that made the dreams of a little girl come true. And just like that, it reminded us that we're here to make the dreams of many people come true throughout the world. And so that began a whole movement in me, and then of course the joining of all 3 of us. And I do remember those early days. That was there was a lot of excitement, but there was also a lot of trials and little mountains we had to climb, or maybe it was just little hills, because along the way there were even bigger mountains. But God made it all happen and put it all together. And so
many times in ways that we weren't really even expecting.
Exactly. So, Rhonda, tell us a little bit about how it was.
Just listening to you, Vilma, I mean, when you think about it, we were unprepared. It wasn't really convenient. And yet, you know, God spoke and we all came together. I remember that phone call. And that very day, I remember exactly where I was in my house whenever you called and talked about starting a nonprofit. And God had put that in our hearts too. And we really, you know, were totally just like, okay, let's go. And we were ready to go because God had prepared our hearts, and that was most important. And led the way. And that first trip to Ghana, my mother, 80 years old, she says, I want to go. And I was like, okay, let's go, right? So We took our children. We were there as a family, and my mom, being a teacher, I remember being out in the, oh my goodness, we went to this school way out in the bush.
Way out in the
I mean,
bush.
there was just nothing out there. And she taught the children songs, Christian songs, and just had so much fun with the kids. And there was this one little boy using the stick, because we were there in the classroom with the children and young children, and he was pointing with a stick at the numbers, 1, 2, 3. It was just the sweetest thing I have ever seen. And just being as a family, going as a family, just being immersed in their lives and their daily lives, and whether it's at the clinic or during lunch with the children. They always hire a widow that prepares the lunch and the meals. And of course, that one meal that they got for lunch may be the only meal that they have for the day. And it was rice. And she had it in the big cast iron pot, cooking with a fire. And it was a time for me where, you know, you just have to really just take it all in. Sometimes it takes a while to process what you see. You know, you get these, you know, you want to go and you want to serve whatever God puts in front of you. But it was pretty harsh, and just knowing that was the only meal that they were going to get for that day.
And they were grateful for that one meal of rice.
Yes, and we have to remember that we and those who go on the mission trips with us get sometimes as much or even more than we give, because it's about a spiritual and emotional experience that is like no other. And that's what changes people's lives when they come back to their countries, to the States, because then that kind of, their hearts are afire.
I think it's funny because people say, well, I'm not a doctor, what am I going to do? And you're not a doctor.
I'm totally non-medical, okay, which I think has been a lot of fun, because I actually sit with the doctors a lot of times, and because I really enjoy that, because, you know, they come in and they have these ailments and these things that we can correct very easily in this country. And so you do get to see a lot of things that are really painful to experience when I think about some of the people that we have seen as patients there. But yeah, totally non-medical. I love that I can go and do whatever needs to be done. I mean, I've done, been the photographer because that was my major in college, and fine arts, and I've done a mural in one of the places that we went, a school in the Dominican Republic. So it has given me that way, you know, I think God takes things that you are pretty good at and you enjoy doing, and then there comes a time where you go on to serve, and then there's these opportunities that come up that you really weren't expecting, but you get to bless through those things.
And it's amazing. It's like the financial planner that went, and he didn't realize. And there he was, and he changed the life of a little girl in the middle of the Amazon rainforest. You think about that. You never realize what the Lord brings you for. The key thing is when he says, when you ask, send me, he answers.
Well, I think, Vilma, we really should elaborate on that a little bit, because he has a deformity of one of his arms. Mm-hmm. He, when at the age of 17, came from Colombia with his brother to the United States with $100 in their pocket. And of all the trips that we went on, he happened to come on this one trip to the Amazon. And it just happened to be that in this one village was a little 8-year-old girl with a similar deformity. And her parents were so upset about her deformity, they thought that her life was ruined. And he was able to share with her how his life was still a good life, even with that deformity on the arm. And that was, I think back to the timing of that, and so often the things that we see come down to timing.
It's changed the lives of families, not just each individual life, but what happens when they're on that experience together? Does that unify them more in God? And then the same thing when they come back. How does that change their life? And you've been so good about that, Rhonda. The family adventure and the fact of children and how important children are to this. And I think it would be good for you to talk a little bit about that.
Well, families, I mean, there's nothing like serving with your family, whether it's in your church or whatever you're doing in the community. And when you go on the mission field, they get to see things they've never seen before, ever. And it's going to be that time, such a time as this, that time where they're going to see things and it's going to change their lives. And then they get to be a part of something there's just nothing like it. I mean, some of those touching moments for me were at the leper colony in the Dominican Republic, and Ariel, seeing her pray. After the party, we did a party for them at this leper colony, and just seeing her pray with the woman that just had nubs, and she had no fear. She held her hands and just loved on her, and that will be one of those things that I will never forget. And then watching my mom, and then our son Joseph, seeing him play with the children and do whatever needed to be done. If something needed to be done, he was right there, even in 4th, 5th grade and on up. And there's nothing like seeing that, taking that love, putting it into some action, and continually moving into all, really just whatever. There's so many needs on the mission field. There's so many things to do, the things that you think aren't important. You just go, be willing, and show up, and so many fun things to do.
When we were down on the Amazon, and we were 24 hours upriver where we started, and we stopped at a small village of 40 people. And there was a woman on the riverbank, and the first thing she said was, "We thought God forgot about us." And that's really what we want people to understand, is that we don't forget about them because God doesn't forget about them.
We don't realize sometimes why we're sent to certain places. We just are sent, we're given the opportunity, and we say, okay, let's go. And that's what happened in Kenya, in this HIV orphanage. And here we were. We went to visit them to see how they were doing with the medications and such. But when we walked in, we saw this little shoe rack with all these really old shoes with holes in them and broken. And I turned around to Joe and I said, I think we've got shoes, don't we?
And in fact, we had brought 2 bags of shoes that we thought we were going to use at another clinic, but we couldn't go to that clinic because it was in the middle of their elections. And so Pastor said, well, I know of an orphanage that has all children who are HIV positive. Why don't you go there? And we got off the bus, and the house father, Joshua, said, why would anyone come to Kenya during elections? And I said, God told us to come.
God answers prayers. We at Neema Children's Home care for 52 children, and the children have been coming to us asking for shoes. And so we've been encouraging them to pray with us for provision of shoes. So we've been praying for it, and actually the night before Kenya Hearts Afire team arrived, the previous night we were specifically praying for shoes. The following day, I get a call from a friend here who's been with the Hearts Afire Kenya team, And they asked if they could visit us. And that at that point, we didn't know whether they would come with shoes. I thought it was just friends who were coming to see what we do. So when they arrived, they said that they had shoes that they would want to give to the children. And we testify of the provision of God. We were praying here in Kenya for provision of shoes specifically, and God had spoken to Hearts Afire team from US to come to Kenya with shoes that fitted all the children. And we want to thank God for that wonderful provision and the miracle of it. And the Lord, God be praised.
Amen.
And as it turns out, those shoes that we had, I mean, think about how that transpired.
We are following what God is calling us to do, but for these children,
Oh, yes.
an example that their prayers matter and that God hears them.
And especially because they're HIV positive, every single one of them, they feel like outcasts. It's not as understood here. It's a definite mark of shame in most countries that we've visited. And a lot of times the miracle is just being there for people. I know when we were in Kenya just this last year, there was the end of it. Always seems to be the end of the day. It was the end of the day. We're getting ready to wrap up clinic, and a newscaster shows up and says, "Stay open." And I said, "Well, we're not staying open. We're closing." And she said, "But I want to do a story." And I said, "We're not here for your story." So then a couple of local officials showed up, and they said, "We have someone that would like a donation." And I said, "Well, who are you talking about?" And they said, "Well, she lives down the street." So I said, "Bring her here to me." And they brought this woman, and she was holding in her arms a child that was 3 years old and couldn't have weighed more than 10, 15 pounds at 3 years old. And the child's head was back. She had a big tumor on her neck that was partially obstructing the airway as well as the esophagus. I know she couldn't eat well. And so I said, "Well, has she gotten care for this at all?" And they said, "Well, no, because she can't afford the national health insurance." And I said, "Well, how much is the national health insurance?" And it was the equivalent of $65. And I thought to myself,
year.
for the year, a year's worth of health insurance for her kept her from taking care of her child for 3 years, $65 a year. And it was mind-boggling to think that what most of us will spend, a lot of people will spend on 2 or 3 lunches or coffee for the month, that could go to really change the life of a person. So we gave them that $65, which was kind of a no-brainer. But sometimes we don't really know what happens. And it was really great to see just a few weeks ago a picture and a video of this little girl right after her operation. And to know that that $65 went right to where it needed to go, and that small amount can change a life. Because that ripple effect, people don't realize that. We see that as, okay, this little girl, boom, $65, not a big deal. And yet I think of it as this little girl's life has changed. Her mother's life has changed. The view on Americans has probably changed for a lot of people because we were willing to give. The churches, the view of that particular branch of the church in Kakamega has probably changed because people say, this is a church that really believes in helping people. Because once we left, that money had to be put to good use by the church team to help that person. And it's this ripple effect that when people come on trips and feel like, what did I do? They don't know that even just giving a doll or a smile to a child might change that life in a way that we have no idea.
It is that one life. And just listening to you talk about India, my sister got to come with us to India, and she's a teacher, so just so talk about poverty and not having any medical care. The medical camps were, some of them were a little chaotic. I mean, because they had never seen a doctor before. They don't know how to wait in line in some of the areas that we were in, and very hot, and but they were basically desperate. So it gave me a little bit better understanding when I realized, and we had talked about it after the first day, that that's what desperation does.
We see a lot of disabilities in the medical clinics, but the biggest disability that a lot of them have is being born into poverty, which is not their fault. I think too that that's one of the reasons why it's so exciting when we look at our flagship project, the Hearts of Fire Milimani Mission Hospital in Kenya. Because here we just received level 4 certification from the country. We got the license for the x-ray department, so now the people are able to get x-rays. People have access to care. I was in the mall one day and I showed a picture of the hospital to someone, and the guy asked me, where is that beautiful hospital? And I said, it's in Maline. And he said, why would anyone build something like that in Maline? And I thought to myself, that's just like when they said, can anything good come out of Nazareth? And we put something good in Maline, something that it changed the economy. It changes the hope quotient of people. People say, does God really move mountains? And there, a mountain was moved, because the side of that mountain, I remember walking along it and seeing goats eating from the bushes. And then a few years later, when that started in 2015, and the rocks were pulled out of the mountain and people chopped them by hand into blocks for the foundation. And we have that picture, Rhonda, of us sitting on these blocks that are going to become the foundation. And now here it is in 2021 when we did that dedication, and I'm looking at these little school children that are dancing and singing for us, and I'm thinking, some of them are going to work at the hospital, some of them will have kids at the hospital, some of them, their grandkids will be born at that hospital because of what God put into place, not because of how great we are, but because of how great God is.
The neighborhood there, I mean, seeing you, get all emotional, and God's always moving. But the neighborhood, people are walking to this hospital. It's dirt roads, bumpy dirt roads. This is not, but this is their hospital.
It's like the same thing we see in India with the wells. A lot of times the Hindus keep the Christians from drinking at the public wells. And so we put all of the wells on church property. And when we put the wells on the church property and we allow anyone to come, that in and of itself is a testimony to the Hindus that Christianity is about loving people.
And there's still been so many exciting things happen on Prayer Mountain over the years too that were a little unexpected. And one of those, there was a site for orphanages, and we call them children's homes, not orphanages, because that's really what
they've been adopted now.
They've been adopted
by the house parents.
And there is a family in a home now, and that our daughter, her ministry partnered up with us, and we love our partners, and built this home, this wonderful home, Kenyan style home, and have children there, and they're thriving. They're going to school every day because now there's a school.
I thought you were going to, when you started talking about Prayer Mountain, that you were going to talk about the eyeglass station that you worked in.
Well, yeah, in the clinics, sometimes you don't know what you're going to do for that day. So this particular day, I'm like, okay, they need me over in the eyeglass station. Okay, I'll do that. And what we do is we do the readers. So it's probably age like 40 and up, that come in, and this lady came in, and it's a great place to get to just to have conversation. You're relaxed, you're kind of out of the whole chaos of the clinic and everything. And she, come to find out, she was a kindergarten teacher. And I'm like, oh, my mother and my sisters are kindergarten teachers. You know, there's so many things you have in common, and you don't realize it till you really engage in conversation with them. And so she was being tested, so we had the Bibles there, and in their language, and we had she did speak English, and then so we test the readers with them, with the Bible. And so, you know, I asked her, I said, well, are you a Christian? And she said no. And I said, well, why not? Why aren't you a Christian? And she said that she didn't go to church, and she thought she couldn't go to church because she wasn't a Christian. And so we, explained a little bit about that, and she said yes, she wanted to become a Christian. And so we prayed with her and led her to Christ, and her whole demeanor changed. She was so happy, and she had that big smile on her face, and just she left really a changed person that day from the clinic, with her Bible, her glasses, and her whole new life.
Yeah, I noticed some of the biggest smiles we've seen are when people have glasses and they can see again, when they get their HIV test back and it's negative, and when they get a Bible, because so many people are in need of a Bible worldwide. And I know we're talking about specific stories. There's a lot that Hearts of Fire has done over the years. There's the distribution of Bibles. There's lifting people out of poverty by feeding programs, by putting in wells, by helping them with agricultural projects. There's building of churches. There's the supporting pastors by giving them encouragement to let them know that what they're doing is ordained by God, and that when we support them with Bibles, we recognize that they're sowing great seeds. There's that wonderful program we've started, giving goats to the widows in Kenya, where the widows who are outcast basically are now given a goat that they can use for milk, they can breed them for meat, they can even sell them if they need to sell them so that they have health care for their kids. There are so many different things that we do. And in fact, just this year, in 2025, when I look at what's been accomplished, we've had more than 300 wells established in India. That serves more than 2.5 million people. We did crusades in India, where almost 200 people received Jesus as their Savior, and where there were 69 healings, and about 1,000 people were fed during those. We saw almost 1,000 people in the medical camps there. We saw several thousand people at the medical camps in Kenya. We gave out more than 3,600 Bibles in Kenya alone, in 13 different locations at 11 different locations, 13 different languages. So each year we seem to be escalating. God keeps opening up doors and opening up opportunities for people to be part of the future of people, to be part of their spiritual future, to be part of the future of their health, to be part of the future of their outlook on life. And that's what's really important, is to know that this is not a one and done. This is not, we go on the trip, mess things up, and come back. This is relationships that we've developed, that we continue.
And you know, it's sustainable projects, which that's what God worked us to. And speaking of those wells, I mean, think about what those wells do. We think clean water, because we know we can go to our faucet, we can drink the water, we can brush our teeth with the water. But there, the women are so excited because they can cook with the clean water, and they have enough water because of the wells for their families, and they can actually wash their face and bathe. Like, they were so excited when the one woman came, and she was so happy.
Well, there are so many things, because the women are the one. There are millions of hours a day in this world that women spend fetching water.
Mm-hmm.
And the one woman said, they always have a spokesperson. She said, we know this is God because only God can give water where there's no river. And I thought, in the U.S., we don't think of rivers as sources of water. We think of them as sources of entertainment. David and God brought David to us to add the agricultural component.
Mm-hmm.
And we could see that rather than just have water come out of the ground, it could be used for irrigation, and that we could have we could offer a source of food. So we bring seeds. David trains in agriculture now, and we've got so many things going on. We have the avocado project in Pecoraro, Kenya, which this year should have the first harvest of avocados. We have the in Cavaini, where it basically went from dust to a farm. We have small co-ops at each now of the, not co-ops, but small gardens at each of the churches in India where those 300 wells are. So God has done some amazing things that we couldn't even have begun to imagine 20 years ago, when we were sitting down at the whiteboard trying to decide what's our next step. And I really want to let people know where their giving goes. Because when people partner with us, their giving goes towards these projects. We have very minimal overhead. We have no paid administrators. Everyone pays for their own trips, including the co-founders. And so when a person partners with us, and we encourage them to come with us, we want you to come with us to see how the lives are changed. Because the stories are great, but it's almost like the difference between seeing a picture of a sunset and then seeing a video of the sunset and hearing the seagulls. But when you're there and you hear the water lapping and you can dig your toes in the sand and hear it crunching and have the aroma of the salt air, that's what it's like. You go and you have an immersion experience.
Yes. I and the community, I can say that for you coming here, you have helped us because we had no water, and you have saved our life. Up to this day, if it was not you, we could not be here. Our lives would have changed because the water is not easy to get it. And what you have done us, we have seen God, and we thank you because the community and I, we are getting water and clean water.
Dr. Linda Cox here. I'm from Austin, Texas, and originally from Chicago. I'm an obstetrician gynecologist, and I'm here with Hearts of Fire on mission in Kenya. I love the work. Hearts of Fire just runs a great mission. We're always safe. We do the work for the people, and there's no charge that we do for the work for the people, and we have just an amazing time. We just express our love for the Lord through our service for the people. So.
Barbara Delaney, and with Hearts of Fire, and I'm here my second year in Kenya, and I just love the fact that Hearts of Fire is able to provide these goats to the Kenyan women who are widowed. They are very thankful, and it just fills my heart to know how thankful they are, and that this is a good opportunity for us to reach out to the world.
My name is Malika Wendell, and I just took part in the ceremony of presenting Bibles and goats to the widows. It was such an honor and just a blessing to see their faces and how thankful they are, and just the gratitude that they have for it. The one young lady that I presented the Bible to came and gave me the biggest hug just now, thanked me, and I just let her know I hope her goat is good for her and gives her lots of milk and babies. And she said, me too. But in her, she said, yes, yes. So I feel very fortunate to be able to be here and blessed. I feel thankful to God for providing the means for them to have goats, that for us to be able to give them goats, and just really just honored to be with them. They're beautiful.
Nikintoki aja enkai kiata sukul natii ende wueji naa tenaa kidimayu naa keponikini sipitali iyiook. Nikintoki ajo tenaa kidimayu neji sipitali neji sininye inewueji sipitali amu enaa. Nikijo nena tokitin kiyieu nikijoki ntae ashe.
Thank you.
So they said, he's saying thank you so much. You can see that our clothes are very clean. We have clean faces now and we are drinking healthy, clean water. And they just say thank you so much for giving us this gift. It's a very, very great gift.
Thank you so much for giving towards the Bible ministry here in Kenya. We have distributed over 2,600 Bibles in 7 different languages to 15 different locations around the country. Now what this does is people get to read God's word in their own language in a manner that they can understand. And when they do that, they have an opportunity to willingly submit to the authority and power of the gospel. This leads to changed lives. And we have an amazing country as a result of that. Thank you.
My name is Abel Kipkemboy. I want to say thank you for providing for us all things. Thank you for providing for us. I appreciate for everything that you have done for us. Thank you. May you continue helping others. Thank you.
Oh, why? Why am I still doing this 20 years later? You know what's amazing is that I feel even more energized than I did 20 years ago, but it's a different sense of energy. It's a maturity that comes with that long-term walking with God in faith. And we've been doing that. And so why do I still do this? That, and also the fact of the people who we are still in contact with 20 years later, who have gone with us, who still come back and tell me over and over again how their lives were changed now, and they're 20 years older.
Yeah.
And so that for me is what makes me even more excited to say, Lord, thank you for allowing me the ability to be able to carry out my purpose, because you gave me that. That is what you made me for. Thank you, Lord. And Rhonda, what do you think?
You know, this is a real important time. And there's a lot of work that needs to be done. And we don't want to leave any unfinished business anywhere. I mean, we're always needing to do what's most important. God's the most important thing. We know family and then work, but God is always the one, that's really our purpose, is to make sure we're sharing the love of Christ, whether we do that here at home or we're doing it out in the mission field. And so this is so important for us to continue that work. I mean, it's really become a part of our lives. And so this is an exciting time. I'm looking forward to the rest of this year, 2027, really thinking of those things that need to be done, because we always discover new things. We're working with individuals in these countries, and there's more work to be done.
In 2026, we're bringing teams to the Dominican Republic and to Kenya, and to India in early 2027. You can partner with us by coming with us, or you can give. Be part of providing 5,000 Bibles this year that will change lives on 3 continents. Give the gift of water to some of the 747 million people without access to safe water. Maybe you'll help prevent some of the 120,000 deaths due to waterborne diseases this year. Be a small part of the solution to prevent some of the 1.1 million deaths of children under the age of 5 this year. The meal that you provide might carry someone over so they live another day, instead of being one of the 9,000 plus deaths from starvation today. There's so much we can do together. God instilled in us the faith and courage to begin this journey in His name, even when the entire path wasn't clear. We can look back and see very clearly what God's done. We couldn't see it all on day one. Our greatest desire is that you come with us. Come and see the people whose lives are enriched because of you. Truly understand that you're affecting lives for generations. We're asking you to partner with us and take the next step, the first step of the next 20 years. There are still a lot of lives you can impact. I remember Rhonda asking me about providing the funds for nieces of hers to get braces, and I thought on my deathbed, which will be of greater value to me? Some extra money in a bank account, or knowing that some girls became confident women with a beautiful smile? In the same way, I'm asking you to reflect and imagine your life and the impact you can have by partnering with us. Whatever you give is resources that God allowed you to have anyway. Imagine you arrive in heaven. Jesus puts His arm around you and says, "Let me show you some things." You see a child that didn't know what a Bible was, but they knew how to read. The Holy Spirit moved in them and they became a pastor that changed thousands of lives. You get to see a doctor saving lives nearly every day and find out he had a different life because your giving funded a satellite clinic that was built in a remote area, and that doctor was born healthy because his mother had access to care. You get to see a person walking around doing their daily life and wonder, "Lord, what's this?" And Jesus tells you, this person had a well provided in their area, so they're living a normal life instead of having to go be on dialysis 3 times a week for 3 hours. And then you see your grandchildren's grandchildren, people you'll never see in this life, treating people with compassion and kindness, not because you left something for them, but because you left something in them throughout the generations in your own family that you'll influence, because only you and God know how giving changes you. I'm also going to ask, share this video with as many people as you can, because you don't know whose heart God will set afire. God bless you. Until next time.